Hi, welcome to another edition of Heart of a Pronghorn, where we catch up with Pronghorn alumni and talk about their time at the University of Lethbridge and what they're doing now. We have the pleasure of being joined today by Ryan Sommer, former Pronghorn track thrower, spent 2011 to 2016 with the Pronghorns, graduated with a kinesiology degree and was a two-time Canada West medalist in shot put, or two in shot put, sorry, and one in weight. Welcome, Ryan.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Ian.
We'll just get started in, what brought you to Lethbridge, being originally from White Rock. How did you end up at the University of Lethbridge?
Well, I started my university search, and I was looking to go somewhere where I could focus on my athletics as well as getting a good academic degree, and I narrowed it down to University of Lethbridge. At the time, it was the National Throwing Center of Canada. It was run by Larry Stanky, who's still at the University of Lethbridge, and there was a ton of Olympic throwers there at the time. Jim Stacey, who's a Canadian record holder in hammer throw, was there. The other two Stacey siblings, Sean and Heather, who were both great athletes, and both were at the University of Lethbridge at one point, as well as Liz Gleedle. So for me, it was a bit of a no-brainer as a discus and shot put thrower to go to the University of Lethbridge, and I'm really happy with the choice I made to go there.
And you talk about some of those great throwers we've had, and it turned into a bit of a hotbed for us, and just talk about stepping into the program as an 18-year-old, and obviously with a good track record and a coach that's well respected in the national track circle.
Yeah, I think it was a big eye opener as an 18-year-old kid. You think you're working hard, and then you show up and you see guys like Jim Stacey, who's the epitome of a hammer thrower, and he's this massive guy. He's lifting a lot of weights, and just the hard work that he was putting in, and as well as the other athletes there. And that was something I always admired about those people. And I think that's something that Larry always fostered, was to put in the hard work. And that's something I took away from my time at being at University of Lethbridge.
Okay, so now thinking back, as we talked before we started recording, it's hard to believe that it's been, 5 years since you competed as a pronghorn. What are some of your favorite memories and takeaways from your time in Lethbridge?
Yeah, I know it is hard to believe it's already been 5 years. I think the big thing that I took away from being a pronghorn athlete was just the people that you kind of went through the process with. I always find that something in almost anything you do now is it's the people that you go through with. I had the pleasure of going through with Larry, who really acted like a father figure to a lot of us in the program. And people like Peter Millman, who was my teammate, who was a CIS phenom at the time, and just the great people to go through with. That's really what makes it special, and that's where a lot of those great memories are.
If there was one memory that you'd have to pinpoint as maybe your favorite or something that and it can be anything from your time with us.
There's a lot of great ones. I know the extracurricular things were always fun, like the student athlete council things that were planned with the athletics department. But I'd say probably my favorite memory was just all of the year-end athlete banquets. Those were always a blast to go to. It was the time where athletes could finally unwind after a long year of working hard, and it was kind of towards the end of the school year. And yeah, those were always memorable. And once again, just being with all the athletes, that's always what made it special for me.
Okay, and so now shifting gears a little bit, if I remember correctly, at the end of your pronghorn career and your kines degree, you were moving on to further your education. I believe you were going to go to University of Calgary.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you had a shift and back into the athletic world and doing something completely different. How did you get into bobsled?
Yeah, so that it's been a pretty interesting journey. That the summer after I graduated, I was doing forest firefighting up in northern Alberta, in Manning, which is a small town about an hour north of Peace River, and it was the year of the Fort McMurray fires, kind of when Fort McMurray was burning down, and a really tough time up there. And it was also the 2016 Summer Olympics, and just watching those games, it really fueled a fire within me, and I wasn't really ready to give up on my athletic dreams. And I looked into some sports that I could get into, kind of as a late athlete, and I knew a couple athletes who had gotten into bobsled from track and field, so I figured I'd give it a go. And me and a couple of my buddies that I was doing firefighting with, we drove from Manning all the way down to Richmond, BC on our days off in the back, or in my little Volkswagen Golf. I think it was an 18-hour drive. And I did an open recruitment camp with Bobsled Canada. And I didn't really think anything of it. I had never had any sprint training. And as a bobsled athlete, that's basically all you're doing is sprinting. So yeah, I didn't think much of the camp. I was very average, I'd say. And then I was moving to Calgary in the fall to start more schooling at University of Calgary. And I got an invitation to do an open tryout again in Calgary. And from there on, I just didn't look back. And I started the first year with the Alberta Bobsled Association. And then from there, I was on the development team. And then the year after the Olympics, I was on the Canadian national team, sliding on the top Canadian sled, and it's been a great ride ever since.
Yeah, it's such a fast transition for you, and moving up the ranks so quickly. You look at your resume so far with Bobsled Canada, and 8 World Cup medals, a World Championship bronze in 2019. Kind of talk about that journey for you, and stepping into, the top level in that sport.
Yeah, I think it was very humbling stepping into a new sport. I think I was 24 years old when I stepped into bobsled for the first time. I didn't really know anything about it. I know I'd watched it at the winter on TV growing up. And besides that, I remember walking into the ice house on the very first day, and the ice house is kind of the indoor training facility that Calgary has, which is actually the only one in North America. And I felt so out of place. I felt like my first day of kindergarten again. And I didn't know any of the terminology. So that was extremely humbling. And then I started just training really hard. I had a good plan. I was working with a coach out of Winsport that gave me a lot of guidance. And then after the 2018 games, where there was a gold medal for Canada on the men's side for Justin Cripps, heading into the year after the games for the 2019 season, I was on his sled, and I was definitely intimidated. There was a lot of great athletes that had just retired. Justin had obviously just won a gold medal, and I was going to be on his sled. So the expectations were high. And I think just my ability to focus on the goal, all the stuff that I had learned at the University of Lethbridge, I wasn't new to working hard. We were doing 2-a-days every single day, 6 a.m. wake ups with Larry in the gym. So I think just working hard and ready to step up to the plate in that 2019 season, and we had some great successes that year.
Yeah, and it's for someone that's not familiar with bobsled, you're the brakeman of a 4-man sled. So what?
Yeah.
Talk about your role a little bit in that team.
Yeah, so in bobsled, there's on the men's side, there's 2-man and 4-man bobsled, and on the women's side, there's 2-man. And just this year, on the World Cup circuit, there's now mono bob, so that's one pusher who's also the driver. So my role in the 4-man bobsled is I'm pushing on the left-hand side, and the pilot pushes in front of me also on the left-hand side, and then there's one guy on the right side and one guy at the back. So essentially we all push off the block, which is essentially where you have to start. You try and get that sled up to top speed as fast as you can, and then hop into the sled as elegantly as possible and try and ride as low as possible. And then I don't actually pull the brakes on the 4-man sled. The guy at the very back does, but basically anyone who's not a pilot on the 4-man sled is called a brakeman.
Okay. And, talk about, how much fear is in that, getting into that sled and making sure you get in. And then, you're hurling down a sheet of ice at pretty substantial speed.
Yeah. So it's a pretty crazy sport. There's still times where you're standing at the top. You're like, I'm going all the way down there. I can't believe this. But I remember the very first time I was standing on the start block. I was in Whistler, which happens to be the fastest track in the world. Speeds get up to 150 plus kilometers per hour in Whistler. And I remember just standing there. I blacked out, but my legs were just shaking like a leaf. And it's hard to describe, but like it feels like you're in a washing machine or like in like a garbage can, like getting tumbled off a hill or something. There's no memory foam, or they're not meant to be comfortable. So you really put a lot of faith in the pilot's hands to get you down the track safely and as fast as possible. You're always looking for those extra hundredths. So you want to be fast, and sometimes fast can feel a little crazy and wild. But at the last Winter Olympics, gold medal after 4 runs, and that's almost 4 miles of track, they tied for gold. So you're always looking for those extra hundredths, and because it can come down to every last one of them.
And you just returned from World Championships. Where were they this year?
So World Championships were in Altenburg, Germany this year. They were actually held there also last year. Because of the COVID situation this year, their season looked a lot different. We didn't head over to Europe until after the Christmas holidays, even though there was races happening before the holidays. Canada just decided it just wasn't in our best interest to head over there with the COVID situation going on. So heading over to Europe was a pretty interesting situation in the midst of a pandemic. And our entire season was really different and something that I probably never will experience again, hopefully. But I'm on day 8 of my quarantine right now, and this is the first time I think I've worn actual full clothes since I've been home. So it's nice that we could arrange this.
Well, and I was going to ask, now that you're in your 14-day quarantine, what are you doing to keep yourself busy, given that you can't leave your apartment or house, wherever you're living?
I've been watching a lot of TV. Me and a couple of my teammates, we've been playing Call of Duty. Just trying to keep the time passing by. It's lucky there's a lot of hockey on right now to watch, so that's occupying the evenings. But I'm definitely excited to get out. I know it's still pretty cold outside, but I think just knowing that I can't leave makes me want to leave a bit more, and just going to get a coffee or something I would love to do.
Okay, so and now looking forward to, obviously stepping into an Olympic qualifying year and moving towards the 2022 Olympics. What's the process for you moving forward towards that?
Yeah, so right now I'm not doing anything, no training or anything while I'm in this home quarantine. So I'm taking a bit more time off, and then just working with my coaches, making sure I have a plan going into this off season, making sure I'm healthy, making sure all that stuff's taken care of. I think the biggest thing with bobsled is you got to be fast. Speed kills. So that's going to be a big focus for me this year, just working with the sprint coach and just making sure I can find a couple hundredths and just kind of iron out my technical stuff. And then as we get into season, because of the COVID situation this year, we weren't able to go to Beijing, which we were supposed to go, I think, in March. Usually there's a 3-week period where you get a go to the Olympic track the year before, and you get 2 weeks of training, and then there's 1 week which is dedicated to a World Cup race. So that got canceled for this year. So that's getting added to the beginning of next season. So I think depending on team selection and everything, the plan would be to head over to China beginning of October. And then depending on what the season looks like, probably be away for most of the year. 10 days at Christmas, we'd probably get to come home. And then it's a regular World Cup season, so the races would range from anywhere from a couple North American stops, Whistler, Park City, Lake Placid, and then the European stops, which range from St. Moritz, Eagles, Austria, 3 tracks in Germany, France has one in La Plagne, and Latvia has one. So we're not sure. Usually they release the schedule in the summer, but for me, just making sure I'm healthy and being prepared for anything, as this past year has shown us, you just got to be ready for anything that the world's thrown at you.
Yeah, and you sit in an interesting situation as well, because your girlfriend is also an Olympian and with the women's national hockey team. How has that helped you in your goal of reaching that pinnacle?
Yeah, definitely having her. I think it helps us stay on track and stay focused, and seeing her successes has been awesome. I actually got to go and watch her in 2018. So that was really cool. I got to experience the Olympics as a spectator. And that was amazing. They got silver at the 2018 games, and just seeing her passion and kind of leaning on her when things are tough, and on her experiences and what she's learned in sport, I think it's really beneficial just to have each other. And it's pretty cool that we get to go through this experience together. There's no guarantees you're going to go to the next Olympics. So for her, she's hoping for her second Olympics, and for me, I'm hoping for my first one. But I think until you're at the games, it's you don't want to jinx anything. But it's been amazing. It's great.
And just kind of in closing, you did talk about how your time here helped prepare you for moving this into this new sport. Maybe just talk about a little bit more in depth on some of your takeaways from your time at the University of Lethbridge.
Yeah, as a student athlete, I think besides being an amazing experience, there is a lot of expectations on you, from academic expectations to athletic expectations, expectations you might put on yourself, or things from your coaches and your team. So I think going through the program at University of Lethbridge, you're held to a high standard, and I think that high standard really has pushed me and allowed me to succeed after my time at the University of Lethbridge. I've been able to step up to the plate. I've been able to balance a busy schedule. I've been able to do a lot of things I don't think I would have been able to if I didn't have the experiences from being a student athlete. So yeah, I'm super happy I went through the program, and I'm always proud to be a Pronghorn. It's fun meeting other people who went to the University of Lethbridge. So yeah, it's been an amazing experience, and I'm very thankful for everyone who was part of the journey. Ian, you gave me a job. I was working some security at the hockey games and opening the penalty box doors, and Larry, who was a great mentor to me. I'm still in touch with him, and all my teammates, Peter and Lara. I'm thankful for everyone who's been a part of the ride.
Well, we really appreciate you taking some time today to talk with us and let us catch up and find out what you're doing. Stay tuned for new editions of Heart of a Pronghorn coming soon.